For those who may not know, this is the man who brought us Tetris.
I'm very sorry.
I want my many hours back.
No, sorry.
The Apple TV movie about the rights, the sort of cloak and dagger rights to the Soviet Union during the Cold War to get the rights is a story of Hank's pursuit in that business. But you're here because of Blue Planet and because of some of the things it seems like you picked up in Hawaii. Tell us that part of your journey.
So I started a company in Hawaii for mobile phone games, and I sold it in 2005. A month after, I found myself in an ambulance with a heart attack. Oh, yeah. On the way to the hospital, I said, "You've got to be kidding me. I haven't spent any of the money yet." That was the first thing I said. But the second thing I said, "No, I'm not going. I still have stuff to do." And in the recovery room, I started my job of finding my missions in life. What is it that's going to upset me if I haven't done something about it at the end of my life? And mission number one was in the newspaper is like, oh, by the way, we're going to kill all the coral in the world by the end of the century. You know, I moved to Hawaii when I was 18 from New York City. I fell in love with the ocean, surfing and diving. So we can't possibly be allowed to kill all the coral in the world by the end of the century. So mission number one is to end the use of carbon-based fuel.
And how did you start that?
Yeah, so I started that mission I knew nothing about it. I remember having a meeting with the governor at the time. She said, "You don't know anything about this, do you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't, but I'm going to." And I started a foundation called the Blue Planet Foundation, and we just started trying everything. And it's like, we had elementary school children go door to door and exchange 300,000 light bulbs to have a conversation with the adult about climate change and about energy efficiency. Our claim to fame is that we were the first state in the country to have a mandate of 100% renewable energy. Our date was 2045, was a negotiation between us and the politicians. They wanted 2050, we wanted 2040, we settled for 2045. 2045 turns out to be a pretty good date because it's the 100th anniversary of the United Nations. So I'd really like the entire planet to be done with fossil fuel by 2045.
That's a good goal, yeah. It's interesting to me, we did an episode of my show, The Wonder List, in Hawaii, just as they were opening back up from the pandemic lockdowns, and the natives were getting to see what their reefs and trails look like before 10 million tourists a year descended there and took their toll. But what struck me that this success when it comes to renewables is not just the indigenous energy that exists there with geothermal and with wave and solar power, it's the mindset of the Hawaiians. Talk about that.
So, yes, we do have a wonderful culture in Hawaii, aloha culture. We accept people from other places very quickly. There's no such thing as a foreigner in Hawaii. If you've been in Hawaii for a couple of weeks, you're one of us. But the thing still, it's an island country. And island countries are stubbornly want to keep things the way they are because that's how they remember them from the old days, whatever. And so when we said we want to go 100% renewable energy, it's like, oh my God, now you're trying to change our way of life here. So it wasn't easy. And I would say that the biggest thing that we accomplished is we changed the minds of the people from no, we can't to, of course we are. Mm-hmm. And that is the mind change shift that we need to see in the rest of the world.
There is it always struck me that the political skills of Barack Obama were obviously honed in a place where there's no obvious minority or majority. It's a lifeboat mentality that if the barges stop coming, there's 4 days worth of groceries, is whatever that particular story is. How do we expand that to the world, though, to get people to start thinking about our planet the way islanders think about Hawaii?
Well, a simple way of looking at it is the economic way. Hawaii, when we got started, spent $5 billion a year on oil and $1 billion on coal. 30% of the oil goes to jet fuel, 30% goes to ground transportation, 40% goes to electricity. That's $2 billion, plus $1 billion on coal. So that's what we're up against. And the biggest company in Hawaii is the utility. So the economic model is they pay 25 cents per kilowatt hour for oil, and they pay 12 cents per kilowatt hour for wind and solar, including storage. So that's half the cost. So we changed their business model so they can make more money by switching to renewables. And that's why Hawaii is like moving really fast. We already hit our 2030 goal of 40% renewable energy.
And what, is that a result of rooftop getting in on the game as well? Is it pumped hydro? It's all these different suites of sources?
Unfortunately, there's no pumped hydro. There was a dam accident at some point, and so Hawaii got really nervous about dams. Rooftop solar, we passed a law that helped rooftop solar, and we maxed out. What happened was we thought there was going to be, like, in a couple of years, 30 megawatts of rooftop solar. We had 300. And the utility goes, no, we can't handle anymore, and on the grid of that variable electricity. And it's the reason, by the way, I got into the energy storage business, because that's the answer. When the grid maxes out on variable energy, then they have to come in and do storage. And the utility has to be able to put away excess energy and draw excess energy when they need it from distributed storage. So last year we ended coal. The last coal-fired power plant shut down, and we passed a law saying never again will we make electricity using coal.
That's important, right? Because the leader of the moment can change.
You've got to, like, set that. Whenever we have a chance to set a new stake in the ground, that's what we do.
I see, yeah. And so you're taking this idea and you want to expand it island nation by island nation.
Well, first of all, it's already spread across the U.S. California followed us 2 years later with an identical mandate of 100% by 2045. 20 other states now have a similar goal of 100% renewable energy. But that is not enough, because the U.S. is only 6% of the people in the world. We actually need to have all of the people in the world. So the way it worked in the U.S. is it was Hawaii first and then the states. What we're going to do now is island countries first and then the rest of the countries. So we're working on island countries now. And last year we did Tonga, Tuvalu, Palau, not a country, but Guam. So we're moving in that world now, and we're getting started in 20 other island countries. And the idea is just to give them the will, first of all, that they're going to do it. Once you have the will, then everybody in your territory gets the understanding that they have to do this. It's no longer like, oh, maybe I'll think about it someday. No, you have to think about it now, because there's a deadline. And if we don't have a deadline, nothing ever happens.
Are you competing in these places with China, for example, who is looking with the Belt and Road Initiative to expand their footprint around the world?
I'm not competing. I'm not in the business.
Yeah.
I'm not in the business, so to speak. All I want,
I guess, for winning hearts and minds to these ideas.
Winning hearts, yeah. And then China has to come on board as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm not vilifying anybody. I'm saying everybody has to be part of it, even China and Russia. No matter how crazy they may be behaving at any given point in history, they all have to line up and help us fix climate change.
Right. We spoke of it briefly. I'm working on a piece as we speak on the idea of deep sea mining, that there are these nodules of the perfect mixture of metals. There's one company in particular that seems hell-bent on sort of being the first to go down and extract these nodules from the seafloor. Hugely controversial with marine biologists and others. What are your thoughts on that, especially as you try to convince these small countries to deny that?
Yeah, so first of all, the going down there and scraping the bottom of the ocean without us knowing what's down there is insane. We just have no idea. And by the time they get their act together, we won't be needing those things anymore. No, the battery technology that I'm using, the old one is the one that's in your phone or in your Tesla, is lithium, nickel, cobalt, manganese. Cobalt comes from a war zone. Manganese, they're talking about the manganese nodules at the bottom of the ocean. We're already on lithium ferrous phosphate, which is the next technology that's being popularized right now. Right. No rare earth elements. It's lithium, iron, and phosphate. These are all common minerals. And there's not even you don't even have to collect these things at the end of life, because they are benign chemicals. Right. And then the next battery that's coming down the pike is graphene. And then we're talking about carbon-based batteries, which is a whole nother thing. We could use carbon sequestration to get the carbon to make batteries. So right. Yeah, the future is not going to be manganese.
Interesting. So for folks who want to go back to their neighborhoods inspired by the Blue Planet idea, I love the light bulb door-to-door idea, but what is the toolkit that you hope people use and that you've learned is effective that could make a change.
Well, a toolkit. So I do this a lot. I speak, and then after I speak, people ask me, "So what can I do?" And I don't know what you can do. I can get up here and talk, and hopefully inspire you to do something, but I don't know what you can do. And I came to thinking about it, and I combined that with whenever I show up at a conference and they say, "Hey, we should gamify this." And I'm from the game industry, everybody looks at me and says, "Okay, well, when are you going to get off your lazy butt and do something about it?" So we've created an app, and we're in testing right now. The app basically gives people a list of things to do. In the beginning, it's very easy. Turn off a light switch in a room where there's no people, pick up a piece of rubbish, put it in the rubbish can, anything environmental. You make a small point. Then when you gather enough points, you go up a level, and then we give you bigger things to do. That's role-playing. My history is I made the first role-playing game in Japan. And so the idea is you go up levels and you gain status. I mean, everybody, why do we need to make more money? So we can buy a bigger car, have a bigger house. It's all about status.
Right.
Well, let's give you status directly. Now you're doing something for the environment. And you make points by either doing something or you make points by creating something for other people to do. And the more popular your thing is, because you make points when somebody else does your action.
Right.
Then it becomes a competition to see who can make the most interesting action. And then we can bring in celebrities and say, "I'm sponsoring this action." And then it becomes a competition between celebrities to see who can make the most difference.
I love that.
So that's, I'm looking at everything that I'm doing now has to have a worldwide impact. It can't just be a local thing. I did Hawaii, and now it's got to be the world, because we have to solve everything in the entire planet by 2045. That's my date, the 100th anniversary of the United Nations.
And time's a ticking.
And right now we're on the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and they go from 2015 to 2030. And then we're going to have another 15 years before the 100th anniversary. That 15 years, I'd like them to be the RDGs, the Regenerative Development Goals. It's where we put back everything that we've stolen from nature and fix everything that we've broken. We can totally do this. We have the technology. We have the money. It's all here.
It's all here.
We just need the will. People ask me, do I have hope? And I always answer, no, I don't have hope. I have determination. Because we are doing this. It's a sink or swim thing for humanity and nature. And
Right.
we're working together now. So, yeah, and we're totally going to do this, and we're going to do it by 2045.
I love it. Thanks,
Thank you.
Frank. There you go.